Welcome to the Fountain of Vitality podcast. I'm your host, Lamont Levitt. In a world overflowing with noise, confusion, and distraction, we're here to cut through the clutter and explore bold, unique paths to a longer, healthier, and more vibrant life. Through candid conversations with business leaders, wellness experts, industry pioneers, and innovators, we'll uncover insights to help you discover your own personalized, unique approach to thriving. Tune in, trust the compass of wisdom within, and find your fountain of vitality. Hello, my name is Lamont Levitt. I'm your host of Fountain of Vitality podcast. And today we have with us John Munsell. He's the CEO of Bizzuka, and for about 20 years. And in the last 4 years, he's had a really strong pivot with AI and AI tools and helping companies take themselves to that next level. And today we want to discuss, how learning to work with AI can relieve stress, reignite purpose, and help you thrive in a rapidly changing world. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Lamont. Good to be on. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Well, we wanted to just talk about AI, and there's a lot of trepidation and fear out there, and rather than focusing on maybe so much of the fear, talk about how it can remove stress for people in your experience.
Sure. So, I mean, look, the main thing is to just forget that it's AI and just focus on how it can simplify your life. And, I think one of the main things that we try to work with people, like when we're working with a company, is the first thing is what we would call an executive alignment, because most executives, at least in our age bracket, are used to kind of delegating stuff, and they don't necessarily do a whole lot of things. So we show them how they could actually use AI to simplify. And man, I'm telling you, that's the big deal when you actually play around with it and you see what it can do as an assistant, as a thought partner, as a coach. Man, things just change, but you'd have to obviously know how to do that. But for me, the thing that always messes with me is how much I have to get done in a day. And when we pivoted, right, we went from 40 employees down to 4. So that's a pretty big switch. We sold off, that part of the company. But the bottom line is that I had to figure out how to do more with less. And AI was that internal partner of mine. So instead of me calling, for instance, the chairman of my board at 10 o'clock at night and say, I got this idea I want to run by you, I basically tell AI what role it's going to play and what genius it's going to be. And then I run those ideas past AI, and it's just a different answer altogether. And what you get is pretty significant. So, I mean, to me, that's it. It's like just looking at it as the smartest person with instant recall of the world's knowledge. And how do you tap into that? And when do you tap into that? And when you can do that, man, it definitely takes a lot of stress off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've really been enjoying just as I'm doing business deals, trying to figure out what project to attack next. It's so nice to just say, to have an idea and think, I wonder what the total addressable market is in this space if I attack it this way. And what's my likelihood of success based on my current company, put in my current company website, and let it research the industry, and gave me a percentage success rate of what's my likelihood of success if I attack the market a certain way, given the size of the market, and is it growing? And all kinds of unique ideas I would never even think to even ask anybody because I wouldn't get a decent answer. It's nice to be able to go on that wealth of knowledge that you can take yourself to that next level.
Well, that, and if you think about it, if you were to go hire a McKinsey or a Deloitte or some consulting firm to get that information, you'd be paying 6 figures.
Yeah.
And spend a lot of time getting that answer back, but you can get it for $20 a month. I mean, that's pretty crazy in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, so imagine you, you went to the doc and the doc says, Lamont, you've got cancer, and we think we need to operate. Are you going to go, sure, I got plenty of time tomorrow, let's get this knocked out? Or are you going to say, I think I might want a second opinion, right? Maybe I won't even want a third opinion, because that's a pretty big diagnosis. I got a lot
It's a
riding
big
on.
ask.
Right. It's a big ask. So for another $20, you can get another opinion. And for another $20, you can get another opinion. So what I mean by that, well, for Chat GPT for $20 a month, you got pretty sophisticated knowledge, whether it's medical, business, finance, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
For another $20, you can get the pro level of Gemini, which is crazy good. For another $20, you can tap into something like Perplexity or Grok or Claude, right? So you have all these really, really powerful LLMs. And so when you're researching your market and you say, what's the total addressable market in this particular space? What have we pivoted? What do we lose? What do we gain? You can run all that into ChatGPT, and you can run it into Gemini, you can run it into Claude, and you can literally take the output of one and shove it into another and have it basically have a debate with the other LLM's responses. LLM being large language model, being those AI tools. But that's, to me, is phenomenal. I mean, to be able to tap into that knowledge and have instant recall of everything, and then fine tune it and just say, look, I want you could literally say, okay, now I want you to be Warren Buffett, and I want you analyzing my financials and the total addressable market. Now tell me, are we in the right lane? Do we need to make a little
Yeah.
adjustment? Whatever. Pick whatever financial guru you want. Or actually, what we've been doing lately is picking several and then having it essentially debate where the AI takes on each of these roles, and it has a conversation between them as each one analyzes something. And that conversation is pretty fascinating in and of itself. But
Yeah.
you can't do that, without AI.
Right.
So
Right. And I think some people, they're a little bit nervous to jump into it. I think you got to just start somewhere. Pick
yeah,
one of them, start asking questions. Let it help you with figuring out how to solve certain problems, and it becomes a great assistant. It really does. I've been enjoyed the. I really enjoyed over the last year. We were on a mastermind together that you put together in 2024, and it's been fun to see the leapfrogging of LLMs. Of 1 week, it's like, oh, this is going to be the next slice of cheese we got to go with forever. Then the next week there's another evolution of another one leapfrogs the last guy. What matters is starting and being in the whirlwind of change, and enjoying the change, and enjoy that pivot in life.
yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, the things just keep progressing. So, that's like I always say, today is the worst AI you'll ever meet,
Yeah,
but it just gets better. I mean, what we were dealing with 3 years ago, compared to what we have today is insane. And I mean, I hate to think of what's coming, because it's just getting so powerful. But then the question becomes, what do you need to know in order to capitalize on it?
yeah,
And where are you left? If AI can do everything, what's left for you? You know?
yeah,
And I, like, this morning before we got on our call, I was playing around with Google's AI Studio, and they have this thing called, I think it's called VO. There's so many different names you got to keep track of. I've
yeah,
forgotten, but VO is their video generator. Does amazing stuff. You can put in audio and all this, and it's really cool. And they give you all these samples that you look at, and then they show you what the prompt is underneath the sample. And the thing that just kept occurring to me is it still boils down to human creativity and human instruction. In other words, when I'm watching these videos just do amazing things, I looked at the prompt that it took to create that, and I'm like, you have to be pretty creative just to write the words, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, one of these things was like this long, and I'm like, I couldn't have thought of that. You know, my brain doesn't go that way. But you can get AI to actually help you craft that kind of a prompt, and you can modify it. For instance, on a small basis, one of them had something about a feather that's blown off of, I don't know, some kind of a table and dances around rooftops and ultimately gets trapped in a cobweb or a spider web. Okay, well, I would never have used the phrase dances around rooftops, you know? I mean,
Right.
like, that's pretty poetic, and my brain isn't that good. I'm jeans and t-shirts guy. Don't ask me to get that creative, right? But that was the small prompt. The bigger one, I mean, like literally it was like 8 paragraphs long, and it was like a story. I mean, it was prose. It was just like, whoa, I could never think of that. But you can have AI assist you with that and direct it. But the idea that we can go from writing text and having this thing pull out a video is pretty phenomenal. And what I did is I took a PNG file, I mean, digital copy of our AI strategy canvas, and I uploaded it in there. And then I just gave it a basic prompt to say, okay, I want a man addressing a large audience. Behind him is a big screen. On the screen is this image of the canvas. And I want him pointing to a specific square on the screen and saying, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so it generates the video. And, first you just see this big screen with the strategy canvas on it. And then it zooms back and this man comes into frame and he starts pointing to the thing and he's having this
Nice.
conversation. I'm like, that was about 12 seconds, Lamont. That's what it took to generate that.
To
And I'm
put that
like,
together.
wow. Yeah, it was wild. And the interesting thing was, I'd have to prompt it and stuff, but I was fascinated because behind him was this big bright screen and the lighting on his face reflected that he was essentially the shadow because there was a big bright bounce back. You know how when, if I have a really bright background, I'm going to be dark because of the camera, the way
Yeah.
that works. It did it inside of this video. I was like, oh, that's wild. So now I'll have to prompt it and say, okay, there's a big light on his face. So he lights up, I have to do all kind of adjustments to it. So now all of a sudden you're the cinematographer, and you have to kind of dictate the scene and where the lighting is and where the angles are and the lens. So it still requires a vision on the human end to
Yeah.
generate something like that, which
Yeah.
is, to me, that's, I guess that's the new value exchange for humans. They get a chance to exercise their own creativity,
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and what I've been excited about is the humans or us, we can try to get a little smarter and not be afraid to attack some things before. I think, well, it's going to take me 10 people, 20 people to pull off this project. It changes your thought process. And
Right.
you think, okay, if I have AI, what should be automated in the whole process of whatever you're building? And how do I insert the right people around all that to make it a great delivery, a great product, great message. So that's been fun as a CEO and entrepreneur, to change how I think when I'm attacking a new project, and actually fear less, because I can start with less in building out anything than I ever could before.
Well, not only that, but the challenge that I've always had is just retaining everything with all the projects that I'm working on, all the conversations that I've had, all the people that I've interacted with, retaining all that and having instant recall, is a challenge. Like if you have, like in my case, it's easy for me to have 4 or 5 meetings a day with prospects, customers, employees, etc. And then 3 weeks will go by and I have to have another conversation with somebody about a project that we're working on. And there's been a lot of developments, et cetera. Well, I'm big on AI note takers. So we have typically all of our meetings are held over Zoom because all of our employees are all over the country and world. All of our clients are all over the world, you know? And so we have note takers in that. I have note takers that I carry with me. So if I'm, in a conference room with somebody, I'll say, hey, you mind if I, use my little note taker, which is roughly the size of a credit card. And I just, use that. But that digitizes the conversation, gives me a transcript. I can analyze that transcript. I can have AI pull out stuff on that transcript that I would never have gotten. And inside, we use Fathom. We've been using Fathom for almost 3 years now. So I've probably got 1,000 calls recorded on Fathom. And I can go search that 1,000 calls and pull up just about anything.
There's your recall.
Yeah, it's instant recall, right? And for every client, I'll have documents that have all those transcripts. I'll put all those transcripts into one GPT, and then it'll look through all those transcripts, and I'll have it pull out discussions about what we were going to do, blah blah blah. So that ability for me, that stress level for me prior to this of going, oh crud, I got to remember what the heck we talked about last time. I got to remember what we talked about a year and a half ago. I got to think about what's our progress. I don't have to do that anymore. I have all of that where I can just quickly search, summarize, and get something, that's absolutely incredible and meaningful, the minute I want it. And if I want to make a recommendation to somebody, I can also use AI to kind of fine tune that recommendation, because I've got a lot of intel about the company. And so I'll say to the AI, look, here's what I'm thinking. Poke holes in that, and it'll give me all kind of ideas. So it's a great stress reliever. It's a great equalizer too.
Have you ever gotten a phone call where it's on your calendar and you go to start it and you're thinking, I know I scheduled this 3 months ago, but I'm not sure why it was so important 3 months ago to talk to this person.
Right.
Where was my brain at the time?
Right.
And be able to know that before just having a blank stare. Hi, we've talked. I don't know why.
What are we supposed to talk about today?
Right. How many times have you had that phone call or a version of it? And you're trying to soften the fact that you can't remember why you need to talk to this person. And you go, oh, right, okay. And then it slowly creeps back in the first 5 minutes of the call. But
Yeah.
been there before.
Well, I mean, look, take it in from a sales perspective. If you have a discovery call with a prospect and you're really learning about their business and everything else, and then you're like, okay, let me digest everything we've talked about, and I'm going to take all the products and services we have, and let me come up with a proposal that meets this, right?
Yeah.
And you schedule that meeting for 2 weeks out, a week out, whatever it is. You can use AI to actually analyze that conversation and pull out the nuances that you may have overlooked. Take your products and services and really craft a meaningful proposal that is so customized to that individual. It's not even funny. And then, I think I've shared with you before, what we will do is we'll take that same transcript and we'll have AI analyze it and analyze the individual on the call or the individuals on the call and understand how they make decisions, understand what's important to them, understand essentially the language they speak. Are they numbers oriented? Are they emotion oriented? What's the really meaningful change they're seeking?
Yeah.
And then we turn around and we have AI become that person. And then we take our proposal and we tell AI, you are this person. Now read our proposal and tell us what you like about it, don't like about it, questions you might have, objections you might have. And then it'll do that. And I'm like, oh, wow, that makes no sense. And, we'll also tell it and justify why you're doing that. And it'll say why this was a problem. And so then we rewrite the proposal and then we have it read it again, and we do that a couple of times. And then we have a really solid proposal. And then when we present it to the prospect, all of those things are on the table, or at a minimum, we've been able to anticipate what the friction points will be.
Yeah.
And hopefully we've addressed them. But if not, we know how we're going to address them if we have no, total solution for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't, you couldn't have done that 4 years ago.
No, not
You'd
not a
have to learn.
chance. Not a
Well,
chance.
and then you also could use it to train new salespeople, which is a phenomenal deal. You have your own SOPs for salespeople, but think about how long it takes them to actually learn your products and services, and how long it maybe takes them to actually be productive on a sales call, to where they can answer objections, etc. You can do that essentially in real time with AI. Like, my daughter works for a software company in Austin, and over the weekend, well, she was telling me she was going to come in town. This is literally about 3 weeks ago. And she said, Dad, it just takes me so long to reply to emails. I have to think through all this stuff. And I was like, oh, we should build a GPT, which is a small, agent, if you will, inside of Chat GPT or Claude, that knows all of your products and services and all that stuff. And I said, well, we should just build one of these. And then you could literally copy the email into it and have it craft the reply. And then you can kind of fine tune it from there. So it gets you from 0 to 90 in, 2.3 seconds. And now you just fine tune a little bit and off you go. She's like, that's awesome. So when she came in town, we just spent, I don't know, 45 minutes building this GPT. And she loved it, and she was working with it. And then she had a sales call with a really big prospect, and her boss was on the call too. And theirs are all done over, the equivalent of Zoom as well. So while this guy was coming up with objections, my daughter was going to her GPT, and it was coming up with the way to answer those objections. And so she would actually, go out there and say, well, blah, 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 blah. And after the call, her boss comes in and says, man, the way you were handling those objections was amazing. That was incredible. And she was all complimentary. And they end up, winning the deal. But her boss was just taken aback. And she goes, well, I kind of had help over the weekend. My dad helped me build this GPT. And she's like, what?
Yeah. There's a great in the whole SDR, sales development rep world.
Yeah.
Just in the last year, there's a good number of commercial, viable products available that can really help you with that, beyond just one or two. So find what works for you, and build your people and humans around being more efficient. Perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a ton of them. And there's more than that, I mean,
Yeah.
there are voice agents now that are really powerful, and the latency between when somebody asks a question and when that AI responds is getting smaller and smaller. So you are at a point now where it's almost hard to tell that you're talking with AI, but
Getting
it's so
better.
much better than the standard IVR when you press 1 for this, press 2 for that,
Yeah.
or like, for instance, when I call my insurance company, and it'll say, press 1 or describe your problem, and then you say what the problem is. And I'm sorry, choose from these words, and I'm like, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I still didn't get it. I'm like, so they haven't quite AI-ified it. They still are just
They're
using
trying.
a voice translator it's still an IVR. It only
Right.
has a select menu to go through it, but it can't determine from what you're saying which of those menus to send you down. But AI could do that. AI can have a conversation with you and continue to dig out more, solve the problem, and off you go. Or it could make the decision when it needs to be escalated and sent somewhere else. So it's going to get really, really interesting. And of course, that adds to stress to people, because they're like, man, is it going to replace my job? Probably. But that's, they all say, oh, but there are going to be new jobs coming up, but nobody seems to know what those new jobs are. But I feel like it really boils down to you learning how to run the machine. So you have to be creative. You have to know what excellence looks like in order to guide that out of AI.
Right.
So I think that's really where businesses will dominate. is if they now can teach their people how to use AI to make themselves more productive. Will a lot of people get laid off? Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. But the smart companies are like, okay, well, we have a category 5 hurricane coming. We need to prepare right now. The companies that are going to fail are the ones that are going, nah, I think that hurricane may miss us. No, no, this one's coming.
Yeah.
So get prepared. And, I think the ones who say, it may miss us, those are the ones that the guys who prepare now are going to take over that market.
Yeah, yeah, and don't be afraid to jump in. I mean, there
No,
now let's talk about some fears. Um, there's some horror stories of where people jump into AI and they go down some paths that it takes risk for the company. How can people that want to jump in prepare? And if you could talk a little bit about the importance of a company council about moving the company all in the same direction, and to minimize the mistakes that individuals would make in their attempt to serve the company that they're working for.
sure. So, I mean, it starts with getting the executive team aware of what AI is all about and how powerful it is and how it can help. Once they're aware and they're like, oh, everybody can use this. This isn't just a marketing tool. This isn't
Yeah.
just an IT tool. This is for everybody, from the assistants, to the people that answer the phones, to the CEO. It's everybody. Once you do that, then you have to say, okay, now how do we get everybody understanding it and operating it in the same way? Like any other business, you have standard operating procedures, SOPs for just about everything. You need one for AI, but you need an AI governance policy that everybody understands. And because AI is more than technology, when you bring AI into your organization, you're really talking about change management more than you are technology adoption. And because of that, there's a new division of your company that needs to be created. And we would either call it an AI Center of Excellence or an AI Council. And that organization would have representation from all of the departments. So it's not like a standalone department, it's an amalgam of all of them. And the reason you would want to do that is because AI affects everybody and everybody can learn from how you use it. But you need some controls on it. So everybody needs to know, okay, we have to have some safety, some security, and some policies on here. But at the same time, we need to encourage innovation and use of it. That's a really interesting balancing act,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to handcuff everybody, but at the same time, you don't want to let everybody loose in the playground. So there's a little bit of organization that has to go on there. And that creates the need for a specific team dynamic. And I go into that in detail in my book that you kind of mentioned at the beginning. But in the book, I talk about how you structure that council. Once you have that in place, then you need to teach everybody foundational things like safety, security, and ethics. And this is, across the board. You need to teach them a way to understand AI and how to operate it so they all are speaking the same language and they all have the same basic understanding of what needs to go in to make it really powerful and effective for them. And at that point, they need to understand how to use it in their unique job. So we don't necessarily want them to go into a generic training that they have to sit through, like learning about the history of LLMs or the history of machine learning.
Right.
All they're trying to do is whatever their job may be, I don't need to know all that. I just need to know how to work the little thing that's in front of me to the best of my ability and get excellence out of it. So that's kind of the process is, getting executive buy-in, getting the governance in place, and then creating a standard process for everybody to learn and execute together and share their wins and losses together. Now, when it comes to security, because these deep fakes are getting better and better, I mean, it's very hard now to distinguish between a fake video and a real video.
Yeah.
and it'll only get
Way good.
tougher. But it's already almost impossible. I mean, last year, it was almost, I don't know, 15, 18 months ago. A company in Hong Kong got taken for, I want to say it was $5 million or $50 million. It was a big number.
Yeah.
It was either 5 million or there might have been one more zero. I don't
It was a
know, but
great story.
it wouldn't have been one that I would have been able to take on. That's all I know.
Right.
But there was a deep fake inside of a Zoom call where they literally faked the CEO. And the CEO ordered 5 people to each wire out $1 million each. And they're all like, yes, sir. And they did it. And they pulled this thing off. And nobody could know the difference. So what we've started to tell people to do, and I'm doing it in my own family now, is coming up with a phrase that's kind of a challenge phrase or a verification phrase or whatever it is, so that if you're being asked to do something that has some significance, of disclosure, whether it's transferring money, whether it's disclosing
Information.
passwords or logging in or whatever it is, there's a 007 phrase that goes between the two of you, right? Um, it's like somebody says something and somebody else has to say something back. I mean, it's literally an old spy movie type of a scenario, but everybody needs to know what that is. I mean, we got taken for $30,000, no, $20,000 about 10 years ago on, and it wasn't even deep fake. It was just an email fake, faking like it was me. And, our gal wired out $20,000. We were blessed enough to get it back 2 weeks later, but it was only because she instantly thought after she wired it, she's like, wait a minute, I wonder if
That's
that was
weird.
John, you
Yeah.
know? Another company that I was listening to earlier this morning, this guy got taken for $1 million and he didn't get it back. So you have to have those kinds of controls in place. And again, we were taken just by a fake email. Now we know how to detect those emails. But if they're looking at a video and it's me and it's my voice and it's my lip sync and you don't know whether that's live or Memorex, as we would say back in the
Right.
old days,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
then you have to have some kind of a phrase where you essentially ask the question and you wait for that response to come back. And if it's AI, obviously AI, as long as everybody knows what that phrase and response is, and it's not written anywhere, but it's a script, it's a mental script that you remember. It's your own spy movie script. Then you're going to be safe. But if you don't have that, then it's going to get ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important. It's taking passwords to the next level, and
Yeah,
relationships. Just it reminds me of the old days when you go to an amusement park and you tell the kids, if something should happen, we're going to meet at this fountain,
you're right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, if you get split up, so the same kind of thing. This is how we talk outside of technology. And like you say, don't save it somewhere that could be scraped or picked up. Another fascinating thing I've found is a lot of people try to uh, want to talk to you and lure you into a direction. Come over and talk to us over on this platform, or and you have to communicate this way. Those are red flags. If someone's not willing to engage with you through your secure platforms or how you want to engage, and they get funny about it, that's a perfect example of a potential scam
yeah,
that's trying to be brew uh,
yeah.
with you.
Well, that, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I get at least 3 LinkedIn requests a day, which are scams. LinkedIn connection requests.
Oh yeah,
And the scams, the language is something like, "Oh, I love your background and history. It's perfect for a project we have in mind. Send me your phone number and I'll call you.
right.
Send me your WhatsApp number and I'll call you." Others are, your name keeps coming up as being recommended to me. Do you know why? Do we know each other? I'm like,
Yeah,
really?
really.
I mean, but there are about 4 flavors of these things. that keep coming back. And each one, I just go into LinkedIn and I report it as a phishing scam because you know it is. So you know that nobody's going to just start asking you for your phone number. A lot of times those are just LinkedIn bots that somebody put out there because their whole job is to sell data, sell databases, and so they're trying to confirm your phone number and your address and all that stuff, and so they're hoping that you will reply. So now they're like, oh, good, we validated that phone number, then now we can sell it as a validated phone number.
Yeah.
That's how that lovely scam works. The others are, okay, now we're going to call you and try to convince you that we're going to send you this huge contract, but you need to give us a deposit.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's fascinating to watch those strategies, but just recognize on those LinkedIn ones you mentioned, you can also look at the person and say, why this just barely got created. They've never posted anything. And the
right.
first person in the world they want to reach out to is me. No.
How great am I?
Could that be?
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I got one the other day, and I was just kind of passing it around to our team, and they're like, "Oh, this person only has 3 followers," and I'm like, "It was created 2 weeks ago." Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so there's signs. It's sad because when I was a kid, I wanted to trust everybody, and give people the benefit of the doubt, and I still do. But the need to trust but verify has escalated in my life to, okay, I trust that you might be a good person, but let me just do the trust but verify thing and make sure
Yeah,
this is real, and
yeah.
you can quickly identify how to protect yourself. So those are some good
Uh,
examples. So
yeah, I mean, this whole shift that we've made post COVID of having most of our meetings online,
yeah,
that's nice and convenient, but also adds a level of risk. And that's why you have to have extra protection now that all these deep fakes are possible and real and happening. You have to have another layer of security. So that's another procedure that you need to document. But like I said, I those phrases aren't something that need to be typed and sitting on your desktop. They need to be rehearsed as a script and stored in your mind.
right,
And it could be fairly simple, but it just needs to be something that nobody else would think of, you know?
right, right. That's awesome. Well, so past and current where we are now, it's hard to say what AI will look like in the future, how it affects us. But I'd love your prognostication of just where you think things are going to evolve in the next year to two, and how to prepare
So,
ourselves for that.
yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. And I wish I had the only crystal ball in the world, but everybody's got one.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think, honestly, I know that AI is going to displace a lot of jobs. You can't have this level of efficiency and not have people respond with price cuts, layoffs, etc. And then you take AI and you put it in the form of, a robot, whether it's a one that vacuums your floor as a disk or a humanoid robot that they want to produce by the millions. You can't really think of a whole lot of things that AI can't do, but the creative side is where we still have an advantage. But when they talk about the AI being smarter than the collection of humans on Earth, that's coming. But the question is, how does that actually scale across businesses and everything else? And the thing that I keep thinking of is there's going to be a shift in our exchange of value. And the question is, what does that new shift look like? What is that paradigm shift? Because right now we essentially exchange value as either an exchange of dollars for time or an exchange of dollars for a cup of coffee or a set of earbuds or whatever it might be. There's some sort of an exchange of value between humans, and it's typically an exchange of what I bring to the table, and I'm going to swap that out for some financial uh, instrument that I can then use in the marketplace and exchange it for something else. So, what is the new paradigm of value? And I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I do think that it's going to center around creativity and our ability to discern um, truth and excellence and guide these AI tools. So that's going to get really interesting for me. I know that's kind of a deep, hairy subject to talk about, but if knowledge is free and knowledge is instantly accessible, and it's knowledge, it's the entire world's knowledge from the beginning of time, what then do we offer as value? Because it's not my expertise anymore if AI can give you instant answers, but it is my expertise in knowing what excellence looks like coming out of AI and knowing how to guide it. And so I think there's going to be a big value around people that know how to do that. What happens after that, I don't know. I know there's this talk about universal basic income. To me, that's scary as all get out, because now you have a very weird society when the government controls how you get money, how much you get money, or how much money you get, and under what circumstances you get that. That's a scary thing for me. I think they will have to start taxing AI like they tax humans right now. And that's where I think the money's going to come from. And that's a weird concept to think about. But
Yeah.
the more you use AI and the more you use robotics, to generate some product or service that other people are willing to, exchange whatever money they have to receive, and there are no longer humans involved, then that productivity would have to be taxed. And again, then the question is, where does the money go, and how do we decide, what goes to us and what goes to the 5 wealthiest people on the planet? I don't
Yeah.
know. Smarter people are working on that, I would assume. I'm just not sure how many of those smart people I can trust. you
Yeah.
know?
It's hard. And then the concept of all the world's knowledge is available to us. And as you know, over time, to the victor goes the spoils on what is true history. So what is all true knowledge, and then what what is masked from the masses, and what is truth that we don't know or we haven't learned yet. That'll be interesting how that evolves
Right.
as efforts are come out, or new discoveries. Will that get squashed, or will it be brought to the forefront for the betterment of mankind?
Well, that's the other big challenge with AI, right? Because of the way you build an AI tool is you weight its responses in certain directions one way or the other. And they talk
Yeah,
about AI bias and all this stuff. But that begs the question, if somebody else is controlling the output of AI, how do you as a human know what's truth and what's fabrication and what's right
right.
for you? And can AI be used to manipulate perception? Yeah, absolutely. All media is
Yeah,
geared to do that. Whether it's a movie or whether it's the news, it's geared to manipulate behavior. All marketing is geared to manipulate behavior. So that's why I have been telling people, in K through 12, we have to teach kids discernment more than we have to teach them math now, you know? And that's the interesting thing about
yeah.
where
Discernment's critical. It really is.
critical thinking is key,
Yeah,
and discernment is a big component, right? You have to be able to take something that's coming at you and not go, oh, yeah, yeah, and then get all angry about whatever it is, because there are a lot of other bits of information that you potentially aren't aware of, you aren't being told. It's just like that in your own company, Lamont, right?
Yeah.
Some people at certain levels don't know all the moving parts, and they see a decision you make and they get, angry, or they cheer on that decision, but they don't know all of the things that had to go into making that decision.
Right.
And that's the trickiest part, is saying, okay, so you're telling me X, and you're saying it with such conviction that I'm generating some sort of a visceral response to whatever it is that you just said. I need to kind of control that visceral response and try to dissect it and say, is that really what I believe? Or is there more that I need to know in order to believe that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
goes for politics, that goes for news, that goes for watching a movie, video games, whatever it is. I need to be able to dissect that a little bit better and make sure that I know, really where this is going to take my head. Is that what I really believe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It gets pretty
Yeah.
hairy at that point.
Trust is, and the more you trust someone, uh, sometimes the less information you need to gather from them, because they have put the effort into having explored all those different chasms of the thought process. And okay, I don't need to go down that path. If my electrician says I'll be stupid if I wire my house this way, you know what? He's put some thought into it, more than I'm going to put into it. I'm going to go with his response,
Yeah.
and move forward. And you do have to trust the experts. But with AI, the trick is, who's the expert, and who's feeding the knowledge.
Yeah.
Uh, in the end, I think through AI, the one thing as humans we need to do is really value our human connections. And I think there'll be even more evolution of, communities of sorts, even more people where you have a group of 20 to 100 people that you trust, you want to do stuff with, and have a good, solid life with. As all the noise is happening out there, you need to get back to, okay, what's sane, what's real. There just seems to be a lot of propaganda, a lot of noise, and a lot of information flow. And I think some of the anxiety that I see in people is related to, there's too much information flow and they can't even ingest it. So they just back away and bury their head in the sand, rather than learning, okay, I'm now going to accept 2 hours of information flow and try to make sense out of that information. What's truth? What's someone's idea they're trying to sell me, versus, what's that reality?
Yeah.
So,
And I think
uh,
on a positive note, if we're going to end
yeah,
it on that, the one thing that I think AI will give us in the immediate and even long term is the ability to have more human connection.
yeah,
Because as AI takes on more of the routine, mundane tasks and speeds up research and all that stuff, now I have more free time, and I would rather use that free time with family and friends and vacations and all that, because now I can actually see somebody in person. I can hang out with you in person. We can go,
yeah,
hang out at a barbecue joint, because that's in my life, right? And
yeah.
we can enjoy our human connection, because AI gives us that ability to take off a load off of our plates.
It
So
really can be a renaissance. It
yeah,
really can, if we recognize it for what it is. John, thank you so much. If you guys haven't had a chance to, this is Ingrain AI, the book you put together, Strategy Through Execution. Um, Good stuff. And our company kind of got through the mastermind, got going with the whole project, and we're ingraining AI throughout our organization at Novi Health right now. And it's a fun journey, and we're enjoying it. And I want to use the word journey. That's really a human saying.
yeah. Well, thanks, Lamont. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure as always.
Well, great talking, John, and thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Take care.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Fountain of Vitality podcast. Head to fountainofvitality.com for more episodes, insights, and resources. Remember, your health is yours to own. Take charge Focus on what you can control and keep exploring what works for you. Always be your best self, lift others, and trust the compass of wisdom. Until next time, stay vibrant and take care.